our tax dollars are paying to create a bill that will violate our rights and criminalize our free speech.
Yeah.
People have to get very upset about that, and they should.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I think needs to happen is, and this kind of circles back to the beginning of our interview, we have to get the Aboriginal people themselves on board to understand that all of that money that's supposed to be going to them isn't going to them. It's going to fuel false narratives like this. And if we can shut those false narratives down, hopefully we can get some transparency and see that money get into the hands of people who actually need it.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack in what you said there. So there's a couple of things. The first is about the crumbling narrative, and another, something to support your position, which is interesting, is the academic side. So you're correct that the person who's been the most vicious academic in trying to stop people from talking about this is an academic by the name of Sean Carlton at the University of Manitoba. Sean Carlton, on the anniversary of the 4-year anniversary, all he had to say was just to repost an article he'd written a year or two earlier saying that, you know, residential school denialism is on the rise. And it was a piece, I believe, written with Negan Sinclair, who's the son of Murray Sinclair, who is the second worst totalitarian who's trying to shut down discussion about this. So that was all that Sean Carlton had to say about the issue. Whereas if it had been a couple of years earlier, he would have been much more hostile about all sorts of things and saying much more that would be new in the sense of new things being written. So he's not really writing anything more about this. And then on the flip side, on June 5th, I have been accepted. My paper on criminalizing residential school denialism has been accepted to be presented at the Canadian Political Science Association conference at George Brown College. So the fact that that's been accepted is amazing. I still can't believe that it's happened. On the downside, when I first looked at the program, I was on a panel with 3 other people. They weren't talking about the residential schools. They were on other issues, and we had a discussant who would be commenting on our papers. When I looked a couple weeks later to find out what the email addresses were to send my paper to my fellow presenters and the discussant, it turned out that I had been removed from that panel and placed by myself without a discussant. So now I have to be by myself, and I can't be on a panel with other academics. So it's just this kind of push-pull of the different, on the one hand, people trying to disguise what's happened to continue on with the same view. On the other hand, people sort of beginning to realize that there's not a lot of substance to the claims about the remains of 215 children, and being somewhat uncomfortable with the idea that if you're asking questions about what's happened, you should be fined or put in jail because of that. And that's what's being proposed by I think it's up to 2 years in prison.
Yes.
That's what Gazan is floating as her ridiculous piece of legislation.